Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures. The other day I got a hold of the new Frostgrave Knights and absolutely had a wonderful time with them. But now, to complement them even further, I finally got a hold of the Fireforge games Northmen Folk Rabble. So this was originally kickstarted maybe a year or 2 years ago, and they've slowly been getting these sets out to retail, and this is the one that I was most excited about because it's just regular boring peasants. How often do we see a kit like that? Not very often. Now there are a few, hunting bows, and we have a lot of farming tools laying around, so we do have some weaponry, but the uses that this kit could have, that's where the fun's going to be. So we get 18 peasant rabble folk. Let's see how the sprues are divided. So one nice thing, and I know I mentioned this when I did the undead review, you do have a choice. They include both square and round base, whichever way you prefer things. And it looks like the actual peasant sprue is, we get 3 of them. So it should be 6 models per sprue. And let's take a closer look here. Get that out of the way. Okay, so let's see. It looks like, I'm assuming this one's supposed to be female. So it looks like 2 female, 4 males. Well, it's not too bad of division, I guess. Oh, are our heads divided? Lots of yelly folk. Oh, the heads to me are kind of similar looking, but you know what? I'll bet you, even with just a little bit of work, I could probably stick some Frostgrave heads on there as well. So look at this. All kinds of farming tools. Isn't that awesome? That'll be fun. I kind of wish there were a few more open hands. I'm hoping that we can actually just have some completely unarmed people pointing and yelling and encouraging their neighbors to do all the dirty work. Because that sounds like something that a peasant mob would totally do. Sadly, we only have 2 torches included. Oh, these are ponytails for the ladies. Okay. I get you. Wash basin's kind of fun. The milk bucket. A lumber axe. And one of these flail thingies that I can't think of the name of right now, and I'm sure somebody will either correct me or I'll remember, but the best one right here, we have a broom. I have been dying to have some plastic brooms for whatever reason. I wanted to actually get some brooms. You know what I wanted them for? Was the Ghost Archipelago crewmen. Those crewmen needed some brushes to swab the decks. That's what I think. So this looks like it's going to be a fun kit, and I think if you've got lots of similarly sized models from whatever company, be it, North Star, War Games Atlantic, Perry, Victrix, Gripping Beast, any of those kind of historically scaled stuff. These are a little bit bigger, but I think the size of the models, you could totally fudge it and play around with it. And I'm thinking some of these bodies might be interesting to make some apprentices for Frostgrave with too. So I'm going to see if I have anything left over on that wizard sprue and see if we can incorporate that somehow. So sit tight and let's see what kind of concoctions I can come up with here, shall we? So we got quite a few of our peasant rabble folk all put together here. We'll give you guys a good look. Talk about a couple of things I liked, some things I wasn't particularly pleased with, and what to do with all those parts. So I used a mix of Frostgrave and Renedra bases and the bases that came with these guys. And speaking of Frostgrave, a few of them actually do have Frostgrave parts on them. I was curious how they would work, and for the most part, they worked out pretty nicely. So one of the things I really liked was there's a lot of variety in terms of junk that you can equip all of these peasant folks with. Sickles, pitchforks, scythes, brooms, shovels, knives, hammers, axes. There's just a lot of stuff available. And they did take, this guy has a Frostgrave head. I'm not sure. I think that's one of the Fireforge torches in his hand. I can't even remember now. But they did take to the Frostgrave parts quite nicely. This fine fellow with fabulous hair here is mostly made up of Frostgrave parts. Those are Frostgrave arms, and you can see they fit the body pretty well. They're not too long, and that's actually one of the issues that I kind of had with this kit was on some bodies, some arms more than others look really elongated. The women folk, for example, this just looks really, really long. I don't know if it's the bodies themselves. They're almost the same size, so it's not like, you know, there's big divergent body types here going on. It's just some limbs seem a little longer than others. The other issue is I had a horrible time trying to match up all of the two armed parts. The pieces didn't really match up well on the sprue with the arms that they needed, so you can see most of my models here are only using the single hand options. I had a terrible time putting them on. But funny enough, I actually did find a use for them. I had a bunch of old Wargames factory models, and the arms on these guys worked great for them. And since I had so many bodies, I figured why not just start making a bunch of random, peasants with those, since they're pretty inexpensive, and I'm not a big fan of the arm structure for a lot of those older Wargames factory stuff. So it worked out quite well. But I think between a box of these and, what other bits you've got laying around, I think you can have a whole lot of fun. And, they're not just... Yeah, I guess they're combat ready in a sense, but it's not like they're all, rushing out to charge. A lot of them are. But, you can have a couple just kind of hanging around with their equipment. This guy, for example. So if you want some more at ease type villagers, I think you got it. But again, these are almost all entirely armed. So if you just want random innocent bystanders, you might want to cut down a few of the weapons. And that was another thing, is there's such a huge variety. I think it would have been nice to have a few extra unarmed hands, or just like hands waving, hands doing stupid things like that. So that way we can have a lot more variety, even more so. And then they could sucker me into buying even more boxes of this stuff. Because I think that was the big downfall, is like one box, I figure I'm good. I don't know how many random peasant villagers I'm really going to need, So grabbing a couple other models. Get our Frostgrave guy right here. You can see they really work out well. Frostgrave guys, I always seem like I'm in the need for more bodies, so I didn't really want to try replacing any Frostgrave bodies with these bits, but since they did work the opposite way, I don't know why they wouldn't continue to work that way. The bases here are obviously an issue. Let's see if I grab something a little taller. Put my feeding time woman. So I guess, size-wise, they're going to be okay. I don't think they'd look completely out of place with a modern Warhammer army. And I mean, they're peasants. They're probably malnourished peasants. They don't need to be gigantic. I mean, if you want to have them, rolling with like conquest models, then yeah, you might have some problems. I mean, when the peasants are coming up to his waist, or, like the dwarves are, barreling over them, that could be an issue. But for the most part, I think, they're just poor peasants. They're exactly what you need. You don't need a big fancy, giant, exemplary physique. I don't know what I'm saying here, but yeah, I think for what they're intended for, they work great. I don't know how the rules look for the actual game, Forgotten Realms. I believe that's what it's called. No, Forgotten Worlds. Forgotten Realms is something else. Forgotten Worlds is too. Anyway, I think for what their intended purpose is, as a rabble unit of just peasants finding whatever makeshift weapons they can get their hands on, I think they work great. Yeah, there's a few, little things here and there. The other thing that I wasn't a big fan of was the ponytails for the women. There is this one, wind-swept hair head, and then the rest have these little notches for a ponytail, and they didn't really fit in well. But, they don't really look very feminine either, but I'm not going to be that picky about it. I think just having a bunch of peasants like this is fun, and it could make for some interesting scenarios in whatever type game you want to play. And I'm sure, if you want to multi-base them and really have a big angry mob, hey, more power to you. We'll put a link down below for Fireforge's game. They've got all kinds of other interesting lines in plastic, and hopefully they have something there that strikes your fancy. With that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.